All right. Now, I think you touch an area that is very sensitive and very important for Africa. For many countries in Africa, which is about power, no? And you made mention of the fact that, of course, we have resource advantage in that there is solar that is abundance in Africa, no? And yet, country like Nigeria will continue to remain in the dark. So tell me, which are the opportunity taking advantage of technology can we boast of in able to generate our light, even our own little home? Because if I can build a house now, I can have a solar energy. I don't necessarily need to connect myself to the national grid, which means I can have light 24 hour. So help me with that. What are the possibilities?
Right. So we started by using generic solar cells to charge our devices, right? But then what we realized was that generic solar cells have less than 20% efficiency, and which is it's a big waste when when you live in a country or in a continent that has so much sunlight. The sunlight radiance is like half the day. Like most of the day, you have a lot of sunlight, right? So basically, if you're just only 20% out of that, it feels like a waste, right? When you can get a lot more and empower a bigger area. So we decided to partner with, this is where the partnerships come in. We decided to partner with um, a team in Eastern Africa that works on something called a particle dust, which is on the physical level, right? It's on the atomic physics level, very useful for generating a higher percentage of solar efficiency. So that's sitting at about 75%. Jumping from 20% all the way up to 75% is massive, right? So if we're able to set that up, so what we're trying to do, like I think I touched upon that, is we're trying to help businesses and people solve problems and get better, right? So later on, what we're trying to do is, aside from just the AI tech and the IoT tech that we're working on, that's just the phase one, right? The phase one is knowledge, understanding what's happening around you and understanding the environment around you and how to go about solving the problem. Stage two is providing those, should I say, highly efficient tech solutions that make things worth buying, or make things worth investing in. If you were going to set up a solar farm right now and get only 20% efficiency or less than 20% efficiency, that's not the best, right? But then if you're going to set up a solar farm and get 70% efficiency and be able to fuel a small, like a large community or even like a small city or something, right? That makes it all the more worth it. And another thing is, Africa is in a situation where we can't, it's almost not the best to try fail multiple times. Because the reason why I say that is we sit in a situation where other continents have tried and failed, right? So we have information on the other people who have tried and failed and have now got this right. If we go and try and fail the same way that they fail, that's not very smart. But
You're right.
if we fail a different way, that's worth it. If we fail a different way, we learn a new lesson. Right. But if we make exactly the same mistakes that somebody has made and we have written documentation on, the foreign countries have huge data sectors and all those data centers that you can get information from and get all those numbers from. They go back 10, 20 years, right? And even some information goes back 100 years. So if you have all that data available and you have the AI metrics that will help you go through that, because maybe you are lazy like somebody I know, and you don't want to read 100 years worth of records, right? And you have the AI system that will summarize that for you. Why should you make the same mistakes as these people? You should make your own mistakes at least, right? Or get it right because they've gotten it right, right? So that's what we're trying to do, right? So that's the next stage, is bringing in this more experimental tech that's highly efficient and makes it worth investing in. That way you don't try and fail too many times in investing. You invest once and it works, because we have a resource advantage, but we don't have a capital advantage when it comes to facing the rest of the world. That's to realize where we are. That's the best thing. That's to realize where we are. We have a high resource advantage, but when it comes to a capital advantage, the West and the East currently have a capital advantage. So when we invest in something, we need to make sure it's right, either the first or the second time,
All right.
so that
Now,
we don't
Colin,
waste.
so you mean to tell me now, say maybe for example, you go to a small community in Accra with the knowledge that you have, because I find it even very difficult to understand myself. Okay, I'm not an expert in this area, but just a layman thinking, I understand that electricity was invented many years ago. Many years ago. So to say that we don't have information of how electricity work should be surprising because all the information are there, how it is generated, what if a different form, a different version of it are available. So, and we have universities in Africa, people who are studying the same thing. So to say that we continue to remain in the dark, we are outside when the sun is there, when the sun goes off, everybody go inside. It doesn't make any sense. So it doesn't
Yeah,
really make any sense to me.
yeah. It doesn't. It's a lot of things on the continent don't make sense when you look at it on the first glance, really. Because you realize that not even just
Really?
the electricity, not even just the electricity thing. When you look at the fact that we have a lot of natural resources here, let's look at America, for example. They had just gold when they were moving to America. That was the initial gold rush, right? They were going there to go and look for gold. The first thing they built was railways, and then they added pickaxes and machinery that can be used to source the gold. That's what they did. They didn't think about anything else. They just thought about railways, pickaxes. How are we going to get the gold out? We need to get railways to move the gold, right? But then in Africa, we have so many different resources, but we don't have a well-structured logistics channel that moves these resources around. How is that happening? Right? How is that happening? How was that not the first thing that we thought about when we found all these resources? In Ghana, for example, we have a railway structure that was allowed to die, right? Our current president is trying to revive some tracks, okay, but then it's not at the level that you would expect a country with so much resource diversity to be at, right? So once again, that is the long-term focus, my firm, because we've kind of decided that look, we want to make Africa comfortable, right? And we want to make Africa comfortable together. How do you call it? And the goal is to execute, right, and not get executed. So we won't touch on it. We won't necessarily go fight any battles or make noise or anything. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to solve these problems that look obvious in the private side of things, on the private end of things, with networks in the private firms. Because if you look at America, like I said, who built these railways? Who provided these pickaxes? It was private firms. It was private individuals. Right? It wasn't the British government that decided to go and set up railways for them because they were a British colony. They set those things up themselves. After those things were set up, when the oil rush came in, the Rockefellers and all those kind of people, private individuals who set those things up, the Bank of America and all those kind of setups, Goldman Sachs, all those banks, private individuals, right? So if you take a look at it, all these, and let's even move to other countries like China, Russia, and all those kind of places, right? Private firms are the blood, the beating heart, right, of any sustainable economy. Because unlike governments, who usually change after 8 years, after 4 years, right? Private firms can plan for 10, 20, 30, 50, even 100 years, right? If they have a long-term succession goal. So that's what we're trying to do on the private side, plan for the long term. Because we've realized with climate changes and all those kind of things that short-term solutions are not the goal anymore. Short-term solutions won't save anybody anymore. And another thing is that Africa has a history or a culture of working together with nature. We've always respected nature in everything that we've done. We've always respected nature when it comes to building the communities and designing our traditions. The food we eat, we always ate fresh. We always did things as they came, right? We even have gods that were centered around nature and around natural bodies and natural water bodies and all those kind of things, right? So if everybody on every continent respected nature as much as Africa did, because we simply felt like if this water body is feeding me, I don't disrespect this water body, right? If this mountain is giving me shade or giving me protection against my enemy, I respect the mountain. If we have that self-identity return, right? And then we pair it up with the technology. So it's not just technology. Industrialization will not save us if we take industrialization over nature, because nature will always fight back, right? So we have to realize that in every step that we take, in every move that we make, in every plan that we make, it should be at least 100 years thinking into the future. Okay, when we set up this gold mining site and the gold is finished, what is going to happen to this site? Or what is going to happen to this community? right? If we set up this place and then we over-farm it, and now the place is not fertile for anything to be grown on, what's going to happen to the food source for the people over there? Would they need to continue importing food? That's what we need to start thinking about. And the way we can think about those long-term things is on the private side, because like I said, if I'm in government, right, and I have 4 years to make sure that I can get another 4 years to move, sometimes your priority would go down or would centralize on short-term things. What can I do within that 4 years to impress the people enough to give me another 4 years? And by the time I get that second half of 4 years, what am I doing with 4 years, right? What am I going to set up with 4 years? Because if my party loses power in the next cycle, the people who come in will stop or cancel any project that I start in my second 4 years. We've seen that happen in Ghana alone, where we have two parties that usually swap power, MPP and NDC, right? MPP will start projects in the first 4 years, that's short term. They'll secure power for the next 4 years. When they start working in the next 4 years on a long-term project, NDC comes to the power, and then NDC sidelines everything that MPP was doing. So you see all these half-constructed long-term projects, half-constructed factories, half-constructed schools, half-constructed hospitals, and all those kind of things, right? Which have been abandoned because even the administration wasn't finished. And the contractors that were working on those projects lost funding the moment the parties switched hands because they got the contract politically. So once a new party comes in, they say, no, I'm not working with you, you work with the opposition, right? You're loyal to the opposition, you don't get my contract. I give the contract to somebody else. And that person too comes with his different long-term goal. And the other people too come with their different long-term goals. And some people come in with just short-term goals. And then slowly,
Collins, I promise I'm not going to talk about politics here today. Otherwise, because here we can be hot on it, though. But we'll find because there is treasure. There is treasure here.
All I'll say is we just need to do it on the private side for long-term things. We just need to do it.
I believe you. I believe you so much of that.